Timber that survives a millennium of salt spray, freezing rain, burial in mud, and repeated drying is not an accident of climate or luck. Viking Age wood endured because it was treated as a living system rather than a dead material. The so-called Viking trick was not a single secret recipe, but a disciplined method that turned ordinary wood into something approaching permanence. Ships, halls, tools and harbour works survived because their builders understood rot at a biological level long before science named it. What follows is the complete logic behind that method and why it still outperforms many modern preservation techniques. The opening truth. Vikings understood about why wood really dies. Rot does not begin when wood gets wet. It begins when moisture lingers, oxygen remains available, and microorganisms find nutrients they can digest. Vikings learned this the hard way through shipwrecks and failed buildings, then engineered their way out of the problem. Their goal was never to keep wood dry at all times. Their goal was to prevent long-term stagnation. Once this principle is understood, every step of Viking wood preservation becomes coherent rather than mysterious. The first step was choosing trees already designed to resist decay. Vikings selected slow-grown pine, spruce, oak and larch because harsh northern climates force these trees to grow dense fibres packed with resin or tannin. So resin repels water, while tannin poisons fungi. You know, older trees were always preferred, and heartwood was really prized, with sapwood being avoided whenever possible. Trees were often felled in winter, when sap content was lowest and sugars were reduced. This alone, honestly, dramatically slowed future decay. Modern builders can actually apply this immediately by selecting dense, slow-grown lumber, prioritizing heartwood and avoiding fast-grown construction timber whenever longevity matters. Fire was used not to burn wood, but to unlock its internal defences. One of the most powerful Viking techniques involved controlled heating. Planks, beams and ship timbers were warmed near open fires until resins began migrating toward the surface. This was carefully managed to avoid structural damage. Heating expanded wood fibres and mobilized resins that sealed internal capillaries as the timber cooled. In some cases, surfaces were lightly charred, creating a carbon layer hostile to fungi and insects. This layer also slowed moisture absorption while remaining breathable. A modern application involves controlled flame treatment or radiant heating followed by slow cooling, particularly effective for exterior posts, beams and marine structures. Oil was driven deep into the wood while it was still warm. Vikings applied animal fats, fish oils and plant oils immediately after heating. Warm wood absorbed these oils deeply through capillary action. Once inside, the oils oxidized slowly, thickening into a flexible, water-resistant matrix within the fibers themselves. This internal saturation blocked moisture movement without sealing the surface. Unlike modern coatings, nothing cracked or peeled. A practical modern approach uses heated linseed oil or fish oil applied in multiple passes, allowing full absorption between applications. This method remains highly effective for tool handles, outdoor structures, and wooden boats. Salt and minerals completed the preservation system. Seawater exposure was actually pretty common for ship timbers, docks, and coastal buildings. You see, salt interferes with fungal metabolism, and it remains embedded in the wood even after drying. Wood ash and lime were also used, which raised the alkalinity and made the environment quite hostile to decay organisms. These treatments were never used alone. They worked, because the wood had already been dried, heated, and oiled. Modern builders can replicate this by rinsing exterior wood with mild salt water or ash solutions, drying thoroughly, and then following up with oil treatments. Design ensured water never had time to do damage. Viking structures shed water aggressively. Roofs were steep, planks overlapped. End grain was protected or elevated. Joints encouraged drainage rather than trapping moisture. Buildings breathed through gaps that allowed airflow even in winter. Ships followed the same logic. Water entered, but it never stayed long. When hauled ashore, hulls dried rapidly. This design philosophy ensured preservation treatments were never overwhelmed. Modern builders who ignore airflow and drainage undermine even the best materials. Why this method created timber that seems almost immortal? The Viking system accepted moisture, but denied stagnation. It created wood that could absorb water and release it without damage. Oils migrated over time, sealing new cracks. Resins continued to harden. Salt and minerals stabilized chemistry. Instead of degrading, the system improved with age. Modern sealants, they often fail because they rely on perfect exclusion. Once they're breached, decay just accelerates, often unseen. Now, Viking-treated wood, on the other hand, failed slowly, visibly, and, repairably. So, how does this knowledge apply today for builders and survivalists? Well, anyone building off-grid shelters, restoring historic structures, or, honestly, just seeking long-term durability without relying on synthetic chemicals can apply this system immediately. First, select the right wood. Then, season it properly. Use a bit of heat to mobilize those resins. Drive oils deep into the warm fibres, alter the chemistry with minerals, and, of course, design structures that shed water and breathe. This approach, it demands patience and respect for the material, not dependence on products. If this deep examination of Viking preservation has, sharpened your understanding of how wood was made to last for generations, do subscribe to The Beginning for more serious explorations of historical engineering that, quite frankly, still outperforms modern solutions. Share this with fellow historians, builders and survivalists who truly value methods proven by centuries, not marketing claims.